This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Melissa Hubert. I'm with the DEMREC Tax Stitch program. I'm the program manager there.
Okay, thank you. Ashley Barnett.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Ashley Barnett, and I'm an environmental scientist 3 in the non-point source program, and I just started this week, so this is my first virtual meeting.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Brooke Walls.
Good morning, everyone. Brooke Walls with the Nutrient Management Program at the Department of Ag, sitting in for Chris Brosh this morning.
Thank you. Bruce Snow.
Yeah, I'm Bruce. I'm the treasurer of KCD and currently for DACD.
Thank you. Dan Severson.
Dan Severson, Newcastle County with Kevin Donnelly, secretary.
Thank you. David Baird.
Norman Pierce, Newcastle County District.
Thank you.
Thanks, Norman.
David, are you on? He's having problems today.
He has. All right, we'll come back to him.
Yeah. Debbie Absher.
It was just on here. I see her name.
Must be bad connection.
I know. Yeah, a couple of people have texted me to say they're having trouble.
Kevin Donnelly.
Kevin Donnelly, District Coordinator, Newcastle Conservation District.
Thank you. Gail Willis.
Gail is. There she is.
Gail, could you introduce yourself and tell us your position? It's not working. She's talking, but
She's muted. Yeah.
The bane of.
Okay. All right.
How about that? Does that work?
Yeah, I need to start over. Okay. Gail Wills, Kent Conservation District Accountant, and I do the books for the DACD.
Thank you. Gwendolyn Pierce.
Hi, Gwen Pierce. I'm Newcastle County Conservation District Supervisor.
Thank you. Is Casey, you on?
Hey guys, good morning. I'm on. Jen, it looks like I'm online too, but it's still trying to connect my mic. So if that goes live, I'll hang up on the conference call line.
Okay.
Okay.
Bruce McCauley.
Just unmute and then mute again. Yeah. Good, Maddie.
Walter Madison.
Bruce said his mic is not working. So.
Good morning. I'm Maddie Walter. I am the Urban Ag Coordinator at the Newcastle Conservation District.
Sorry about that. Marcia Fox.
Morning, everyone. Marcia Fox with DENREC's Division of Watershed Stewardship. I am the Environmental Program Administrator of the Conservation Program section.
Thank you. Melissa Hubert.
I already did introductions with me, but Melissa Hubert with the Tax Stitch program in DENREC. I think it must be the other Melissa. Maybe I took her introduction. Oh, yeah. Yep.
I got a short memory. Michael Popovich.
Morning, everybody. Mike Popovich, Conservation Planner with the Newcastle District.
Thank you. Norman.
Norman already. He jumped
Okay.
in, so go down to.
Richard McCaskey.
Good morning, everyone. Rick Mikowski with a conservation planner with the Newcastle District, chair of the Envirothon and president of First State RCD Council.
Roland, you're on. Roland. He's having trouble.
You gotta turn your mic on. You're muted. There you go.
There we go. Roland Hill, Board of Supervisors, Sussex County District.
Terry Pepper.
Good morning, Terry Pepper, Supervisor, State Conservation District with, I'm the appointee from Sharon Levy Court.
So let's go back up and make a quick run through. So Missy, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Missy.
Let's see. Who did we miss? I'm looking through. I see Dale came on.
Dale Lopez.
Sussex County Board Supervisor.
Yes, I'm sorry, Sussex County Board member. Yes. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, sure thing. And we've got.
And David Baird, DACD District Coordinator.
Thank you. And let's see. So Jake Jones.
Everyone, I'm Jake Jones from University of Delaware in Kent County.
Okay. Did we miss anybody on the web, not callers? We'll do callers here next. Okay. Looks like I think I've got everybody. And so caller one, if I remember right, is Casey. So we've got 3 other callers on the line, and I don't know if they're people who had to call in to make the audio work, and you're also, but who do we have on the phone?
Jen, this is Terry Pepper. I'm on the phone. I can't get my audio to work.
Yep, gotcha.
That's 4.
Yep.
Jen, Joel's here.
Hi, Joel.
Hey, I'll be on the phone for a little while here. Maybe I may join video shortly,
Okay.
but for now I'm on the phone.
So that is Joel Wharton, Sussex Conservation District Chair.
Let's call her 5.
5, yeah.
Okay.
And then I think a caller 2. Do we have one more person?
Edwin Alexander from Conservation.
Morning, Peanut.
Yeah.
Got it.
Perfect.
Ben Kennedy on.
Ben is not on, but I think Ashley is the person that Ben wished to introduce, so we have that covered.
Okay.
Yep.
Ashley, you want to introduce your new, or tell us about your new hire?
Well, yeah, Marcia, I think Ashley introduced herself before. Marcia and Ashley, do either one of you want to say anything? Because I know, Ashley, this is your first meeting and first introduction to everybody.
Yep. So I guess for everybody on the call, Ashley just started yesterday. So like she said, today is her first virtual call. She joined the Non-Point Source program as an Environmental Scientist 3. And for many of you that know Sharon Webb, Ashley is filling the position that Sharon Webb vacated when she went over to Watershed Assessment Management. So if you guys know, we've had a lot of position changes. So the duties that Sharon typically did is what Ashley's going to be picking up. So a lot of the 319 activities, working with you guys on your grant reports, contracts, and making sure that we get some projects on the ground. So Ashley, I don't know if you wanted to say a few things about yourself.
Yeah, it's great to, attend my first virtual meeting. I have a bachelor's in science from the University of Delaware in marine biology, and I was previously working for a private environmental consulting company before this. So I'm excited to, learn more about this position and hopefully meet some of you in person someday. And Ben is currently on another call. So, but then he plans to join this meeting when that call is over. So.
Okay.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you. Welcome.
Let's see. What?
We just want short summation of it.
I tell you what I'll do is I will, for the partner updates, that's not what I'm looking for. For the partner updates, I will drop a link to the folder that has all of those partner updates in the chat so that people can look at those. So that those have been submitted ahead of time. We've got a few minutes for people to give us the highlights for each one of those. But that way, you know, we leave most time for some of the discussion of our business items. So let me see. Okay, so there we go. That's in the chat. I think I should have sent that out to everybody in an email as well. If you have any trouble accessing that, just let me know. But that also includes all of our meeting materials with our minutes and budget and all of that good stuff. So yeah. And actually for the partner updates, I think I am up first. I put myself on the first part of that. So I just wanted to go over really quick a couple of highlights from this past year, some of the things that Missy and I have been working on, and Gail as well, and some other team members, you know, from all of the conservation districts and partners. So one thing that we did that I'm pretty proud of is we put together a district officials training series to provide some of that background information on everybody's roles and responsibilities as board supervisors for new board members that come on. And I know we've had a couple, so we can get that sent out to some of the new board members that have come on since we put that out in the first place. So this past year, we also worked on a virtual Governor's Conservation Awards ceremony. And if you look at the report, one thing I'll point out is that everything that's highlighted in blue, we have a link to on our website or on social media so that you can go through and look at these, you know, on your own time. But there's background information on everything here. I also worked with Marcia and Melissa and Brittany Haywood as well on a tax ditch modernization work group. So that was in the summer that I helped to provide some support for those meetings. So a series of 8 workshops. And then Melissa had put together a draft report that's developed for review. So that should, I think, if the final hasn't come out, that should be coming out soon. We also worked on a cover crop workload analysis with the help of all the districts to quantify the time and resources that we put into operating the cover crop program. So that was a big effort this year. We worked on a cover crop remote sensing project with USGS to look at the use of remote sensing data to complement our cover crop verification efforts. And then something new for today that I haven't included in past reports, but Missy actually spearheaded this to put together a Hall of Distinction on the DACD website, similar to what there is on the National Association website, to recognize and highlight the contributions right now of Bill Vanderwyn, Tasha Evans, and Fred Mott to our state's conservation legacy. And I hope everybody goes and takes a look at that. And if there's anybody else that we should include, just let me know and we'll be happy to add additional members to that. So I also, actually, I should share my screen for this part because I just wanted to go over some of the state budget items that we are expecting so far, and a quick view of what we're looking at there. Let me see if I can zoom in on that a little bit. Doesn't look like, oh, there we go. Okay. So just a quick snapshot of what it looks like the budget is shaping up to be for this next year. Now, the governor's recommended budget has not come out yet, and that's really important to note. So this is anticipated, but not anywhere near finalized yet. So, but last year we were looking at $5 million in the resource conservation and development line for drainage projects. And that's looking to maintain the same funding level. For conservation cost share, we're looking at 1.7 million in 22 and potentially 3 million in 23. For tax ditch cost share, we have consistently received 225,000 for several years now, for a long time. And we're looking to bump that up to 725 for this year to help catch up on some of our maintenance activities. For the DDA cover crop line, that is expected to maintain at 3.19 million. And then in this past year, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund has a large influx of $22.5 million. And much of that is going to drinking water projects. But later on in the agenda, Secretary Garvin is coming on and he'll give an overview of the Clean Water Trust and some of the plans on how and progress about how that effort is moving forward. And then finally, I know I've mentioned it in board meetings. This isn't necessarily going to be included in the governor's recommended budget, but $1.92 million to be proposed during session for a cover crop pilot project with DDA, Center for the Inland Bays, and the Sussex District. So I'm going to let anybody make any corrections to what I've put in there. I was going through my notes and I think I have that right, but just wanted to make sure. Okay. So, and for DACD's agreement with NRCS for this next year, we're looking at a projected amount of $802,000, which is over a 750. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry, Gail, I was looking at your note there. So where did I leave off? Oh, so $802,000 is over the threshold for DACD to have a single audit that is occurring this year as well. But I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that going into this next year, that we're looking at that being the same case. And then we're also looking at some potential funding sources for this year, including the state revolving fund. I'm working with EPA on putting together a webinar to talk about some innovative funding strategies for that. And also there's some interest, there's going to be some more funding within NIFWIF's Chesapeake Bay Stewardship Fund, and they are looking to make a push out to the conservation districts to apply for that funding as well. So I'll stop there because I think we have, we'll touch on the Northeast region meeting later on in the meeting as well. So unless anybody has any questions. Gail, can you, so the first budget slide is not correct, the second budget slide is. That comes on later when we have our business meeting, right? Just
yes.
Okay, to make sure that we're looking at the right budget. Okay. All right, then I will stop sharing my screen. I just wanted to pull that up for the budget piece particularly. So with that, are there any questions? Okay. Sounds good.
Yep. So you want to bring up the NRCS?
Yep, so Casey is up next.
Okay, good morning, Jen. Oh, I'm so sorry. Good morning, Jen, and thank you guys again. I sincerely appreciate the invitation and the continued commitment and the partnership that you guys are exhibiting every single day. Two things I wanted to highlight. One, the report that was sent in advance. That's going to be able to come back in and share out the highlights, the lessons learned, and what we're seeing as that annotated growth that has been outlined within our strategic plan for fiscal year 21. And with that, again, it was really a tremendous effort that in spite of the ongoing concerns that we're seeing from the pandemic and how we've had to alter our service delivery model, that has not impacted the quality of work that's now been provided across the partnership, and more specifically coming back from our planners to the district to help us move forward with going in and providing those prescriptive conservation solutions in a timely fashion to our producers here in the state. We've been able to have that investment of $14.8 million alone, which was really very far-reaching in spite of where we had some understaffing and underfunding, more specifically within the fiscal year. However, as we've come over into fiscal year 22, we really have been able to come back to a level-based form of funding with the onset of potential additional fundings that will be coming in either through additional initiatives that have been slated from the national office or requests that have been coming in and proposed within the Chesapeake Bay. So we're gearing up for that and making sure that we're now right staffed, as well as now being able to make sure that we can move things through in a timely fashion to meet our timeline. So as we get more information, we'll be working back very closely with our district coordinators, as well as now our executive director, just to make sure that, again, we continue to balance out what those needs are and how we're going to move that forward. So for fiscal year 22, very quickly, folks, I did want to make sure you guys were aware of some of those key dates and timelines that we're currently working on to, again, come back in and start building off of the planning work and those resource assessments that our district planners have been doing to gear up for our programmatic delivery and taking us into the implementation side of the discussion. So for the EQIP and the AMA signups, we are currently going in and working off of our first batch of applications that were completed within October 15th. And even though we do have continual applications, we're really coming back in now and saying for those applications that were received on that date, those are the ones that are now being processed and moved forward. We will have additional batching periods and timelines that will occur on the third Friday of each month. That started from November the 19th, all the way through May 20th of 22. January the 14th is when we're looking at the eligibility timeline being completed. And we do realize that there's still some items that we're working through with FSA for the 902s and some additional forms. We'll be continuously working through on that as a case-by-case basis to make sure we have everything in place by the 31st. Our next timeline is the 21st of January. That's when we're looking at the screening being completed, and ultimately the goal to have everything, all of the applications approved and move forward into obligations and contracts by June 24th. Now, what we've always done is to try and have a separate breakout for those producers who will have cover crop applications. Those applications will now come in a second timeline that will allow for them to be able to designate out the land, as well as now what it is that's going to be happening within their rotation. So those applications will need to have those decisions in place by April 29th, with our assessments completed on June 3rd, and then the contracts approved and awarded by July 1st. I wanted to switch up 1 second and take us back into our strategic plan, where we really identified out the need for us to make sure that we're starting to look more at our climate smart agriculture and forestry related needs here within the state. So as such, the agency has gone in and crafted out what we see are 33 conservation practices and 81 enhancements that have been identified to deliver quantifiable climate solutions that are based preliminarily on those methodologies that have been described within our climate planner. That's a tool that it will essentially help us go in and mitigate what we're seeing as a reduction within our greenhouse gases, emissions, or enhancing carbon sequestration in a quantifiable manner that will complement the national inventory of the U.S. greenhouse gas emissions and/or sinks. And through that, what we've been able to do now is to list out, here are the practices that would be more annotated for the state to help us meet those needs and challenges. We're seeing that pulled more over into our major categories, so whether it's soil health, nutrient management, all the way down to your traditional activities. We do have those practices annotated and share that information out with our district planners, our conservationists, and beyond, to make sure that they have this information tied back as they're working with those producers, so we can tie that back into not only their plans, but also making sure that we have proper crediting that's happening within their implementation side. Next thing I wanted to share with you guys is for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, the Conservation Incentive Contract. This is where now we're able to go in and to make sure that it provides additional financial assistance to make those conservation improvements on our producers' land to benefit the natural resources, build up that resiliency, and contribute to what we're seeing as a broader effort to combat the impacts for climate change. So we're going to have a detailed training for all of the employees and our conservation partners on tomorrow, Thursday, January the 20th, as well as now being able to come back in and to make sure that the information coming out of that will help us move forward with meeting those needs. So our notice has gone out to all of our producers, our partnership, letting them know that our first application or that cutoff period will be February the 11th for those CIC, the EQIP CIC program. Shifting over to our easement side of the house in the discussion, we have set up those timelines again for our easement program, and this will be more for the wetlands reserve easement. Right now, we're looking at our application deadline for the current fiscal year of 22 will be February the 11th. We'll go in and have our eligibility completed by the 18th of March, with ranking completed shortly thereafter by March 25th, and then we'll be looking at taking those approved applications and awarding that to a contract here by July 1st. I will pause there. I know that's a lot of dates. Jen, I'll make sure that I can get that over to you so we can add that back to the discussion points, and being able to make sure everyone was well aware, has that information, as well as now being able to track it through our website. So I'll pause there, Jen, and see if there's any questions from the group or anything that we need to expand on.
I'll just say thanks for the dates and the offer to send those over to me so I can include them in the folder for everybody's reference.
My pleasure, ma'am. Yep, I'll get that email to you here in just a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Okay, sounds good. Let's see. You got me? All right. So next up is DENREC.
All right, good morning again, everyone. So in the folder online is an accomplishment report for DENREC's conservation program section. So I've highlighted some of the program's biggest achievements, like record-breaking resource conservation and development project completion. That's for the drainage projects that we partner with in the conservation districts. The tax ditch work group activities and final report, which Jen already touched on. We went fully online with one of our sediment and stormwater program trainings. So that was for the Blue Card course. And to date, actually, since launching that site in June of 2021, we've trained nearly 300 people in that course. And then, of course, funding from our various federal grants offered through the Non-Point Source program, which contributed to nearly 70,000 acres of cover crops planted in the ground. That was for the call share that was provided and the technical assistance that's provided to the ag planners. So the success of many of these programs are due to the partnerships formed with everyone on this call. So we thank you for that. And of course, I know everyone's always wanting to know about our personnel changes because that happens a lot in our section. So just wanted to keep you guys updated on that. Since we've last met, which was, I think, October, was it? We've had 6 new hires, 4 of which were newly created positions. We've had 1 retirement with Randy Greer retiring in December from the sediment and stormwater program. And we've had 5 position changes. So 3 employees have moved to other positions in the section and 2 have left the state. So if everyone stays put, we may be leveling off with some of our position hiring, but of course I'll keep you all updated on that. So that's all I have for you guys. I tried to keep it brief. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Thanks, Marcia. Let's see, so Department of Ag, Brooke.
Hey guys, good morning again. My update is short, sweet, and to the point, thanks to Chris. Just that the commission's working on several things, including the cover crop. And they're also working on some recommended administrative updates for our law regarding the appointments for the commission. I'd be happy to entertain any questions, but I don't know if I'd be able to answer them.
Brooke, the first part you said cover crop something and broke up.
Oh, yep. The commission is working with the Cover Crop Accelerator project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. All right, so next up, Rick, I put your 3 together for the Envirothon Employees Association and RC&D.
Okay, thank you. The Envirothon program is going well. We went back to in-person training workshops last fall in October and December. The February workshop is transitioning to probably virtual online. At least half of it is so far. And then the current issue workshop is virtual at the end of February, and that will complete all of the workshops. The in-person event is still scheduled for April 28th at the St. John's Reserve in Dover. And so we're hoping everything is clear up enough for us to do an in-person event this year. The report's online with some photos from the workshops. Also, the sponsor mailing, Karen's in the process of getting the sponsor mailing out. It may have already gone out in the mail, but I know she's been working on it for the last couple of weeks. We updated the mailing list and added and made a lot of corrections and took off people and added new people. The financial report, basically, the total income for last year was almost $9,300. Expenditures was $14,500. So a negative 52.52. Of course, we haven't had any fundraisers for a couple of years, but total funds in all accounts is $64,406. So financially wise, we're doing well. The team will travel to Ohio for the NCF Envirothon at the end of July, whoever is the state winner this year. And the planning committee does meet monthly via Microsoft Teams now. So everything's going well with that. Any questions on the Envirothon program at all? Okay, in the Google Drive, there's some reports for the Employee Association. Oh, also in the Drive, it's not on the agenda, but I posted an update for the poster contest and show pictures of all the 5 state winners. So you can take a look at that. And Jennifer, I don't think I ever sent you the mailing addresses for them yet, have I? For the DACD check. I'd have to check. I don't think I did. So if I didn't, I'll get that to you. But anyway, there's pictures of them all in that little handout that I put on there, and they were all excited to get their to be winners of the poster contest. The Employees Association, Karen did her normal outline, and I also did a update, but not much activity in Delaware for the last couple of years because of COVID. We had a joint lunch and learn session with SWCS, a week or 2 ago. That went well, and we're trying to plan some online activities and possibly in-person meeting later on the summer or fall. The Regional Employees Association met up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We gave out our annual awards, which was Jeff Parker, who's the president from New York. And we did our Sunday tour as well, which was very well received. A couple of interesting farms that we saw. And a new website was started up on Squarespace. An employee from Rhode Island is working on that, and also an e-newsletter. So a second edition will be coming out very shortly. And then the National Association, I'm not much looped into that these days, so I can't give you much word on that at the moment. And then what was the last one I'm doing here? RC&D. The RC Council met just a couple of weeks ago. Mark Davis, who's one of our original council members, resigned effective December 31st. He'd been on the council for 50 years since the beginning of it. We had our 50th anniversary in 2021. And we approved a $1,000 mini grant for the Unity Community Garden at Mount Zion AME Church in Dover. And we do have a mini grant program. We try to do 3 to 4 grants every year with the funds that we have reserved. So that's all I have to report, unless there's any questions from anybody.
Rick, I had one question about the mini grant program. How much do those grants usually run?
In the application maximum is typically $500, but we did provide $1,000 for Dover since we only did 1 grant last year. We reserve about 7 or 8% of whatever we have in the bank, which usually funds about 4 or 5 projects.
Gotcha. Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Rick?
All right, thank you, everyone.
So on to district reports. We'll start with Kevin, if that's okay.
Sure. Thank you, Jen, and welcome everybody. Our report is in the folder as well. I think some of the highlights, of course, you got to start with people. We were happy to see that Secretary Garvin reappointed Vice Chair Richard Morris to now his 4th term as a Newcastle District Supervisor. On the staff level, Bruce McCauley was hired in September. Bruce replaced Linda Harris Ashton as our business manager. Linda had resigned due to health issues. And then we were happy to add Mike Popovich to our team back in last February. And he has replaced Marion Hardesty, who, after several stints as NRCS DC and part-time ag planner, conservation planner for NCCD, Marianne took a well-deserved full retirement. Staff at the NCCD continue to work from the office and visit with our customers and clients out in the field. On the program front, our conservation cost share cover crop program had a strong sign up. We've had some challenges with some slippage due to delays in getting soybeans harvested. So sign-ups totaled about 13,000 acres, but we've had slippage of a little over 3,000 acres. And on the RC&D urban suburban drainage project front, we had submitted a record number for us, 136 projects as part of the bond bill. We got a very generous amount through the support of the department and the General Assembly, and we continue to make progress. We started 58 projects in calendar year 2021, and we've got some 65 projects in various stages of planning and construction going on during this current fiscal year. Probably like you've read about, certainly maybe some of you experienced, our contractors are suffering from significant delays in delivery of pipe materials to projects, resulting in sometimes project delays measured in weeks and months rather than days or weeks. So it varies by pipe type, pipe size, and back in December we engaged with one of our contractors. He drove to Pittsburgh and picked up a couple of visits, picked up a little over $30,000 worth of HDPE pipe so that we could continue to supply contractors and get work done. Lots of activity on the tax ditch front, like Kent and Sussex. Again, that's highlighted in the report. Want to shout out for Maddie, Madison Walter, and our urban ag program. It's really going great guns. Madison and the folks from the coordinating committee up here and the University of Delaware participated in the Ag Month, Ag Week, had an urban ag session last Thursday night that was virtual but attended by over 60 individuals, and was a really excellent program. Madison will be speaking at the NACD meeting in Orlando next month. So I think those are some key highlights. Jen, are there any questions? Please feel free to ask away.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions? Okay. Let's see. I see Tim is on.
Yes, okay. Good morning, all. I did upload the report, Kent District report, into the Google Docs account there on the drive. You'll see it's very similar to Kevin because he put out the format and I've just followed it. So thank you, Kevin. So recently, this past December, Matt Weber was reelected for another 4-year term. He took over Freddie Moore's term about midterm last time. So this is his first election, and he was reelected unopposed. Long-term board member Barbara Reed chose to step down from the board in late fall. So we certainly miss her and her educational knowledge and background, but as Kevin alluded to, a well-deserved retirement for her as well. In personnel, we hired a gentleman named Daniel Tart as a KCD drainage planner in the fall of 2021. He's working in conjunction closely with DENREC personnel that are here working on drainage, Mike Biggs, and their new drainage planner, Eric Foraker. And they're all doing a great job really getting the drainage projects rolling in Kent County that have been stagnant a little bit because of personnel issues for the past couple of years. So things are really starting to roll there. In our cost share, you can see the numbers. We got this year certified for the fall 32,668 acres of cover crop, 11,532 of which is in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We also did additional cost share on a couple of concrete pads for beef manure leach protection and some ditching and tile drainage, which we picked up this past year more than the year before because of COVID. We didn't get as much done with that. We are also in the office and have been in the office since, I don't know, we never really left the office completely. So for cost share again in the year before, you can see the difference in the acres of cover crop, about 32 to 33,000 acres this year. It was about 20,000 year before, and obviously that has to do with the funding sources. So made a big difference there. Our stormwater program continues to be very busy. Things are picking up out in the field. We have recently hired an additional construction inspector who will start the end of this month. So give our current inspector a little bit of a break, who's been running the whole county, trying to do the county for all of the 280 some odd sites and the daily house inspections for each residential inspection. So as you can understand, the miles he's been putting on the truck has been crazy, and the time. So that'll be helpful to have another inspector in that program. RC&D drainage program. This is where we talk about the new drainage planners on board have really helped us pick this up quickly. We're nowhere near Kevin's level, but we are doing quite a bit of work quickly with this. So last year was a little bit, we worked on 23 named drainage projects. And again, that's going to pick up even more this year. It really started to pick up the last couple months of last year because of the new people. It's hard to even keep track of the number of drainage concerns that we address, but we take all the phone calls for Kent County. If they call anywhere, They know the Kent Conservation District who you call with a drainage issue. So we take the calls, then we decide and figure out whether we can handle it in-house or find other sources like Del Dot or something to work with on the outside. The tax ditch program, again, we all know Gene Vanderwin, and he stays very busy working with all the tax ditches. So we continue to work hard on all of that. If we are able to land some of that additional funding, obviously that will help us catch up on some of the maintenance, as Melissa alluded to. And then education outreach, our annual report we did one last year, and ours will be coming out soon. And obviously we're involved with the Envirothon, the Governor's Conservation Awards, and we also did the poster contest, which Newcastle as well. And I think Sussex, I'm not sure, but that's it, unless there's any questions.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
So I know in the tax ditch work group, there was a lot of talk about cloning Gene Vanderwin. So I don't know if we've made any progress on that, but just wanted to put that out there, that was still a need.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And let's see, so David. David, your audio is, I mean, for me, it's.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Is that any better?
Yes, it is.
Everybody's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll try to be brief here as possible while giving everybody just a general overview of what's been taking place in Sussex over the last year and some of the things that we have on the horizon. First, on the board front, John Riley joined our board as the county council representative back in January of 2021. John replaced Sam Wilson when Sam decided not to run. So John's been a great addition to the board and obviously brings a unique perspective with his background as in the farming community, as well as his position on the county council. Additionally, Will Carlisle joined our board effective January 1st of this year, replacing Richard, who decided not to continue and renew his term. So Richard stepped down and Will has taken over, and we're looking forward to having him join us as well on board. On the ag side, I'll focus on work that we're doing on cover crops and soil health. From cover crops, we had a record year with over 80,000 acres of cover crop planted in the county. By far, our biggest year ever, and that's something that we hope to capitalize on. We put a big emphasis on it, and folks here responded in Sussex County, so we're very proud of that effort. Still have a long way to go, but we're making progress, and it sounds like the other two counties are seeing similar results. We continue to work closely with NRCS on EQIP and some of the other programs, but our focus is on EQIP there. With the staffing issues, obviously a larger load has been passed over to the district, so we're continuing to do our best to keep up with those applications as well that are steady coming in as we're experiencing up and down the state, and Casey alluded to as a part of her remarks. Our stormwater program continues to be bombarded. I don't know of another word that better describes what they're going through from both the plan review side. It's just a steady stream of projects coming through the door for stormwater review, and then once they receive approval, moving forward to construction. Right now, we have over 400 active projects throughout the county that our inspectors are handling. And then our plan reviewers are, really based on the volume coming through the door, it's close to the full allotment of time that they have to review those plans and are getting those done. So we did add 2 part-time plan reviewers to our staff this year who have recently moved into the area and had worked in stormwater plan review in the past, so we're able to take advantage of some of the expertise and talent that's moving into the area. Our equipment operations, we continue to work on projects in both Sussex and Kent County. As Tim alluded to, we're starting to see a little bit of a boost in projects coming together in Kent County, and I would only imagine that that's going to continue. Sussex, the work continues to roll on. On the RC&D side, we were working on approximately 45 to 50 projects in 2021, totaling about $680,000. And just in light of the work that we're doing on the RC&D side, the tax ditch work, as well as the increase in private work that we're seeing, we are adding staff in our equipment operations. So if you know of anybody who is, looking, we're going to be probably looking for additional help come springtime in that part of our operations. Couple things to mention that we are working on now. Probably the biggest thing, and there's a large partnership associated with this, but the Delmarva Soil Summit is coming up February 7th and 8th. We did have to change the venue on that from Deltec in Georgetown. It's moved to the Wacomico Youth and Civic Center in Salisbury, simply because of the restrictions that were put on by Deltec as far as the number of people that they could facilitate in their buildings. So we've moved forward on that. That will be a hybrid type of event, both in person and online. So certainly if you'd like more information, feel free to reach out to Jen or Debbie or myself, and we can certainly get you pointed in the right direction there. We are also moving forward with our tax ditch pilot program that was funded by the General Assembly as part of the community redevelopment and reinvestment funds that they had available at the end of the session last year. It's a 3-year pilot program that's really going to focus on the management aspect as well as the funding aspect of the tax ditches. And we're going to start small on this, but hope to grow it over the next couple of years. And it's really designed to complement some of the work that the tax ditch working group worked on throughout the summer and early fall of 2021. 2 other items to note on the education and outreach side of things. We are continuing to hold our caffeine and cover crop sessions. We'd started having those in person, but we've recently gone back to online with those. So if that's something that you're interested in, certainly keep an eye on our website or reach out to us and we can give you the upcoming schedule. In addition, we are continuing on with our stormwater workshops, and those are focused based on the topic to homeowners associations, contractors, whatever the case may be for that particular topic. But we found it's been well received and in many cases have 40 or 50 attendees for a lot of those sessions. So we're pleased with the response that we've gotten from the public on our stormwater workshops. Another item to note is that coming up on next Thursday, I believe it's the 27th, we are holding our first stormwater conservation awards ceremony. And this was something that we decided to do just because development is running so rampant down here. And we see the good, the bad, and the ugly, but there are really a lot of folks out there who are going above and beyond the minimum sediment and stormwater requirements. They're out there making their stormwater features an attractive part of their community or project, and really doing a good job all the way around. So we're going to be recognizing 7 award winners in various categories next week. And we're happy about that. It's something we've been trying to get off the ground for the last couple of years that really was delayed due to COVID, but we're pressing forward this year and hope that this becomes an annual event. And then the last thing that I want to mention is we've been doing a lot of hiring. We've had folks leave really, within our ag program and we've been hiring in our equipment program. But what we are finding is that the hiring process is becoming more and more challenging. I think we all know that that's just a sign of the times that we're living in. However, especially on our ag side, we're seeing, highly qualified people coming from other professions wanting to get into our ag planning side. And that's really been a challenge for us because often those positions have been entry-level positions. We're hiring recent college graduates and training them up. But we're seeing a change in the shift of people interested in those positions, which has created some questions and challenges for us as far as, how we hire them, where we bring them in from a compensation standpoint, et cetera. So I just bring that up as a noteworthy point that that's what we're experiencing down here on our hiring side. I think it creates some great opportunities for the districts. It's only increasing the caliber of services that we can provide, but those are challenges that we're having to work through as well. So I'll go ahead and stop there, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
I wanted to thank everybody for submitting reports that we have in the folder there. If anybody has any additional materials, I know Casey mentioned sending over some of the sign-up deadlines and some of the timing things that I can add, but feel free to send it over and I will include that, and then that folder is going to remain there available for everybody for your reference. So let's see. So I think we're scheduled here just about to have Secretary Garvin to give us an update on the Clean Water Trust. And what I'm thinking, I don't see him yet. Why don't we start going through some of the items in our business meeting to knock things out, and then we can pause when he comes on to get that update, and then we can continue with the business meeting. Is that okay with everyone? Thumbs up, nodding heads. Okay, super. So the first one, the easiest thing to knock out is probably the approval of minutes and treasurer's report, I hope. But let me pull up the minutes. They've been in the folder, so hopefully everyone has had a chance to review them. But I just wanted to pull them up so that they were there for people's reference, just in case. There's that. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. And then if anybody needs that link, just let me know. Oh, let me get the right window open. Where is it? I have too many tabs. There we go. Okay. Let's try that again.
This is Bruce. I did look at them and they seemed right to me, and I would make a motion to approve if anybody wants.
Thanks, Bruce.
That.
We have a second.
I'll second that. Roll.
Okay. All right. So virtual meetings, do you want to do anyone opposed? And if no one's opposed, then we can move forward with it.
With no opposition, the motion carried.
All right, I will stop sharing there. And then the treasurer's report.
Do you want me to go over it?
Bruce and Gail? Yeah.
Okay.
Head nod.
I will leave it up to Gail.
Okay.
Hey, Gail, if you want me to bring anything up, just let me know to share my screen on any of the financials in particular, or if anybody wants me to bring anything up in particular, I'm happy to.
Okay. On the DACD financial statements, the DACD as a whole showed a profit of $9,800. Now, the Envirothon information is included in this financial statement. So if you reduce that profit by the Envirothon loss, the DACD showed a profit of a little over $4,500. But if anybody has any questions on anything on the report, just let me know.
I had included, I think, Gail, you sent me the DACD financials. Rick, you had sent me the Envirothon financials. So both of those are included in the folder. It just says financials DACD and it says financials Envirothon to try and some differentiation there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers and the Gail, the one you sent me for the Envirothon, the total expenditures is a different number than what's in the DACD one. So I'll have to go back and look at that. I think I came out to 14,000 in the Envirothon. It's listed as 10,000 in the DACD one. Or Envirothon expenses. So.
Well, we have a moment. I'm sorry, Gail, go ahead.
Oh, I see where the
I didn't hear everything Rick said. It's like cutting in and out.
I see where the difference is. The NCF Envirothon's down on a separate line. That's what I missed. You're good. Yep.
I was going to say, why don't we pause and come back to that, because I see Secretary Garvin has joined us. And so that also gives people a chance. I mean, the financials are in there, but let's come back to this conversation after we get an update on the Clean Water Trust. Secretary Garvin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jen. I do have to say I've become quite an expert at all forms of virtual meetings. This is only my second go-to meeting, though, that I've done in the last 2 years. So I was trying to get my arms around what I was doing. So thank you. I appreciate the time. I'm sure there are probably a number of questions, and so my plan is to give a quick overview, talk about a little bit of the status, on where we are, and then get the questions. I do have a few friends I can phone if I can't answer some of the questions, but again, I appreciate the time. As you all know, I would be surprised if everybody doesn't know about HB 200, or specifically HB 200 with House Amendment 2, which has become the Clean Water Trust law, which was signed by the governor this past July, I think it was, which really creates a foundation for overall coordination on pretty much all things water. And there's a lot of different ideas about what it is and what it isn't. First of all, let me touch on the financing pieces of it. So the bill itself, the law itself outlines 3 pots of money that is considered to be the trust. One is the Clean Water SRF, one is the Safe Drinking Water SRF, and one is RC&D. And that kind of makes up the foundation of what is considered to be in the fund. But they all maintain their original structures. So it doesn't mean RC&D money, Drinking Water SRF, Clean Water SRF, gets thrown into a big pocket, shaken up, and then gets used at wherever we so choose. It is the basic structure between all 3 of those still exists. And so we continue to operate in those manners, having our C&D list, having our list for both clean water and drinking SRF. What it does do is helps us leverage and communicate and figure out how we best can utilize all 3 of those pots for mutual goals, leverage funding, leverage activities but they still maintain their properties. The Clean Water Trust Oversight Committee is made up of the Secretary of Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, right now yours truly, who is designated as the chair, the Secretary of the Department of Health and Social Services, the Secretary of the Department of Finance, the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, the Secretary of Transportation, and the chair and co-chair of the Joint Capital Improvement Committee of the Delaware General Assembly, better known as the bond bill chairs. That is, kind of the main structure. It also relies on WEAC serving as an advisory role to the committee members. WEAC also were added 3 additional non-voting members to the WEAC to help make sure that all the various interested parties in these funds are recognized. And so we'll continue to provide us with input. And it requires us to develop a strategic plan, annual report, and then a long-term funding plan. And so when we get into the strategic plan, we get into the annual report, we get into the long-term funding plan, we look at things that are outside the 2 SRF programs and outside of the RC&D. Again, the idea being we want to be able to coordinate and leverage as many activities as we can to improve water quality in the state of Delaware. And so it'll look at BMP funding through agriculture. It will look at 106 grants. It will take into account kind of all the universe of funding that goes into it as we plan and as we report. But those dollars don't get incorporated into the fund. We have 3. We had the first meeting of the committee. The next steps, as required by law, is to hold 3 public meetings. They are scheduled for next Tuesday, January 25th at 9 a.m., February 2nd at 1 p.m., and February 10th at 6 p.m. They're all the same meetings. We try to create 3 different times in the day to hold those 3 meetings, recognizing that people have different schedules and trying to accommodate as many people as we can. We have published an agenda for that meeting. We'll do introductions. We'll introduce a draft strategic plan framework, which the committee has put together. I think we're finalizing the final draft, and we'll probably be posting that so at least people have some idea of what that looks like before the 25th. We'll talk about the processing for finalizing the initial strategic plan and the annual report. And the basic idea of the 3 meetings is to really get public comment and public input to get feedback on what people think and feel we should be considering while we're putting together the strategic plan, and then what an annual report might look like. Obviously, the districts are big pieces of all of this, both in now input with WEAC, but also being a main part of coordination with the department on RC&D funding. We'll also be looking for other opportunities to leverage funds, other pots of funds that aren't included in the 3, but are considered as we do our planning, are things like Chesapeake Bay funding. And we've had a number of conversations with the districts on where there might be some opportunities to do some leveraging of activities in those areas. And so I'm really excited about the opportunities that the trust and um, the executive committee offers. As you know from the list of folks that I recognize being part of the Trust Oversight Committee, it is really all the departments that have some kind of touch on water issues. And we've tried, particularly over the last 4.5, 5 years, to coordinate as much as we can through across the board in the state to try to get as much from our funding as possible. But we see additional opportunities, not only with the districts, but with localities, municipalities, and counties. And so January 25th is kind of the next part of the beginning of all this work and all this effort. We're encouraging a lot of feedback from the community so that we have a good idea and perspective of what either the perceptions are or what folks feel are the important issues that we need to address and we need to include in the plan. And then once we have those 3 meetings, the committee will reconvene and start working on finalizing that strategic plan. So with that, I'm going to stop talking. That's really kind of the 50,000 foot oversight of where we are. And I know many of you have been following this very closely. Many of you, and I want to thank you, were engaged in kind of the long journey to get to this point, to get to this law, and looking for your partnership, feedback, and participation moving forward. And with that, Jen, I'm going to stop, throw it open for questions, and I'll answer what I can, and we'll get back to you if there's a question we can't answer.
Thank you. And one thing I can do for sure is to make sure that we include the dates for those upcoming public workshops in the folder with the rest of the meeting material, so everybody has those available. But are there any questions for Secretary Garvin?
Oh, and let me just one thing. We're doing them virtually. The law said that we hold them in Dover, but based on where we still are with the pandemic, they are all being scheduled virtually.
Makes sense. Yeah. Any questions? Okay. Well, hopefully we have a chance to sit in on some of those meetings and hear the public discussion and provide feedback as well. Thank you so much.
Well, and I hope you do. I hope many of you participate in those public meetings, but also more than happy. I mean, we obviously have quarterly meetings with the 3 districts, which I find invaluable to our partnership and coordination. But if there is a need because of the significant piece and role that the districts play in water issues, if we need to set up a separate discussion as well, I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you.
Secretary Garvin, this is David. This is David Baird. How are you this morning?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I know we've somewhat touched on these issues during our quarterly meetings, but I thought since we had a broader group, it might be good to go in a little deeper. But just based on, and I know you've only had a couple of meetings, but based on those meetings, how do you see the districts engaging with the Trust Advisory Committee as far as providing input and things of that nature as you develop your plans going forward?
We haven't discussed any kind of formal role other than obviously some WEAC participation, but I envision that there will be not only a opportunity but probably a need to have participation in some of our upcoming committee meetings, just to talk and potentially get feedback. But I think a lot of it will still come from, as I said, that DENREC serves as the chair. I think there will be a conduit of information coming through our normal conversations and our discussions. And I think some of that will evolve over time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thanks, Jen. Well, I again appreciate the time. I'll let you get back. Look forward to continual coordination, both on what we've historically done and how moving forward with the trust and the idea of as you know, and many of you heard, I think this all ties back to quality of life issues for our communities, and water is kind of the lifeblood of all that. So I look forward to our continued partnership. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I'm sure this will be a continuing discussion, so we look forward to it.
I'm sure. Thanks.
Thanks. Lisa, thanks for joining in too. Okay. So back to, so where we left off, we were looking at the treasurer's report. So I think Gail and Rick, we were going over the financials for DACD and the Envirothon. It looked like there was a question that was resolved right when we were transitioning over to talk to the secretary.
Yes, it was resolved. It was broken out into 2 different line items. I missed the second one.
Okay. Now, has everyone had a chance to review the financials or have any questions about those? Thanks, Gail, for getting those over to me to put them in the folder. I know it's a little challenging online here to do the treasurer's report virtually. Hopefully everybody has access and hasn't had any issues with that. Kevin, I see you're unmuted.
This is Robert Emerson. I move that we accept the treasurer's report.
I have a second.
Mr. Emerson.
I'll second that. Second.
Roland. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Let's see. Okay, so the next thing we have is the budget. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So Gail, I'm going to pull up the budget that you sent me yesterday. There we go. My computer's thinking, and now we're good. Let's see.
Are you going to talk about the estimate we got for the single audit?
Yeah, we should definitely touch on that because we don't have that included in the budget because we have a good reason. That's not what I meant to share. Let me undo that. So one of the things, so what Gail is referring to there is that with our NRCS agreement, and I alluded to this a little bit before, that we had crossed the threshold. There's a $750,000 threshold where after that point you're required to get a single audit. And so we crossed that last year. And so we are looking at adding that expense for this next year. It's not included in the budget right now because we had a proposal to split that estimated cost across the 3 districts, well, the actual cost once we have that firmed up. But to split the actual cost of the single audit across the 3 districts, kind of proportionate to the funding that each district receives through that agreement. So I think the estimate was 15,000, right, Gail?
That's
Okay.
correct.
So we
And
would
that
look at,
was
okay.
through PKS, who does the audit for Sussex Conservation District.
So we would look at splitting that proportionately across the 3 districts according to the funding that each district receives through the DACD agreement. And probably, I'm going to say according to our work plans, as opposed to trying to figure out how to allocate that according to what each district actually got paid out, if that makes sense. So are there any thoughts on that or comments? I think that that's something that we should probably vote on in terms of how to manage that, how to handle that.
Yeah, Jen, this is Tim.
Mhm.
So obviously this has implications nationwide. So I brought this question up to the chief of NRCS earlier this week,
Okay.
or last week. I'm sorry, last week on a call with him. And this, Casey, since she's still on, can respond to this. But apparently this is an allowable expense in your agreements. So I don't know that we can amend our current agreement to take care of this 15,000, but we can certainly write it into our future agreements.
Okay.
That it would be part of the agreement, pays for itself, just per se.
Right. No, that makes sense.
And again, I don't know if Casey's listening and can chime in on whether we can amend our current agreement to cover this expense or not.
Hey, Tim, this is Casey. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me, but what was the expense in question?
The single audit for the DACD agreement. So we were discussing whether or not we can include that in the agreement itself as an allowable expense, or if that's something that we need to move forward with to decide how to fund it among the districts now, or a combination of both.
Yeah, right now I would say that probably needs to be a standalone expenditure because it wouldn't tie back to those items that were prescribed within the agreement. But I will verify that and I'll circle back with you, Jen. But in the lieu, I would say that probably has to be a standalone cost.
I think the second question that Tim had with that is whether or not we can include this in future years agreements, because according to my projections, we're going to cross that threshold again this year.
I think a lot of it will depend on how the proposal is written and if that's something that now we could support and justify. The challenge that we have right now is trying to go back in and to say, was that within the scope and the intent of the agreement versus not? And if it wasn't, then we wouldn't be able to go in and to make that addition. But going forward, if that's something that we're seeing as a need because of what now is being provided through those services and supports, that could be something you draft in. We would review it and see again, would that be something that we could support?
Tim, thank you for that note. And Casey, thank you for that clarification. I think that's probably something that we'll have some further discussion on to see if it's how we can account for that in either our current agreement or future agreement. Are there any other questions or comments on that part?
No, but I can have some discussions on what language other states may have used in order to get this into future agreements.
Right.
Jen, this is Dave. Is there a way in future agreements to go back to individual district agreements versus a standalone that would eliminate the need for a single audit altogether? I mean, that's just $15,000 that we can't use on the ground for services.
So to have each district have an agreement with NRCS as opposed to DACD having an agreement with NRCS?
Correct. I mean, if the cost is $15,000, I just kind of view that as a wasted expense.
Right.
So, hey guys, this is Casey again. Unfortunately, unless we're seeing something totally separate and distinct for what now is being provided for one district versus the other, right now they're going to tie us to one agreement for the state. So at this point, I don't see us going backwards to where now we would have separate and distinct agreements across the state.
Bruce, you have something?
Yeah, Gail brought this up to me yesterday. We were talking about it, and it seems like it's sort of a unavoidable expense. And as we talk about how we're going to pay for it, the suggestion from Jan on the way to split it between the districts, if we have to do that this year, I would like for the district managers to work together to work that out, because it seems that the largest burden would fall on Sussex based on what we do with NRCS as a state organization. But at the same time, if we can figure out how, if we had to do it for 1 year, I guess, like I say, it's going to be unavoidable for right now based on the amount of money we get from them. But it would be nice if we could write that into an expense where it was part of the agreement. And I also like what David had to say. The sad thing is it's 15 grand that we don't have to put on the ground. But if it's unavoidable, then we got to figure out how to pay for it, because we're currently getting that much money from NRCS. But if we could get them to add that on to the agreement, it would unfortunately be federal dollars, but it wouldn't be ours. But we're gonna have to do the audit. Now we talked with Gail, and like I say, if it seems like a lot of money, but the initial audit maybe is going to be a lot more time consuming on Gail's part, and on just figuring out what they want and how to go through it. We've been through, I'm sure the other districts are too. We at Ken are audited every year. And unfortunately, it's money we can't put on the ground, but at the same time, it's something we have to do. So I'd like to see the district coordinators work together to figure out how they want to pay for that this year.
Bruce, and I think you alluded to something, Bruce. I think we should cover, just point out real quick, is that the 15,000 is just for the outside account. That doesn't include the time that Gail's going to be spending on it. So
correct.
Just to clarify that might be something we have to also figure out to write into that future agreement.
Yes.
And Bruce, I don't want to speak for my board, but I wouldn't have a problem presenting to them that the cost for the single audit be split proportionately based on the funding received as part of this agreement.
I appreciate that. And like I say, you don't speak for the board, but I see the three of you are going to have to work it out. I thought it was a good proposal from Jan, because it's sort of unfair on the other end if we split it 3 ways. Because I would say that probably Kent is probably a third of it, but probably, I don't know without looking at the numbers. But okay, thanks, guys.
And I would say that's something that we can come back to, but wanted to bring that forward. And Gail, thanks for teeing that up, that's not included in the budget, but it's definitely an expense that we need to figure out for this next year. So, and the other option, I haven't included it in the budget, but that's a third option that we can talk about as well.
Is everyone okay with us using the auditors that gave me the estimate? I reached out to another firm that used to do the tax return for the DACD, and they did not respond. So I know a lot of CPA firms don't want to deal with single audits. They're time consuming. So is everyone okay with us using PKS, or does anybody else have an idea?
I can.
Dave, we missed all that.
I'm sorry.
You're coming through now, but you were broken up before. You can start over.
Yeah, I was just going to say that PKS has been providing auditing services to SCD for the last couple of years, and we've been very happy with their services. They've been doing both our regular audit and the single audit, and we work great together with them and really have nothing but good things to say about them.
Thank you.
And Dave, I'm sure, NCCD board will be fine using your auditor. I mentioned to Robert, though, I think we should just make sure that using district funds to secure the services of an auditor, that's fine, I know. I would just caution us to make sure using federal funds to secure the services of an auditor may impose additional requirements on soliciting the services of that auditor. So I think we need to understand that process as well.
That's a good point, Kevin. And another thing I wanted to put on the table is I've been having a conversation through text message with Dan Lee, our accountant. And I think based on the number that they quoted, I think he and I'll go back to them and just see if there's anything they can do to bring that number down, based on the fact that this is really the only program that needs to be looked at with DACD. So even though we may have to budget 15, hopefully we won't need all of that.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm trying to bring up the budget and I'm having a little bit of a hard time. Let me see. Oh, now it seems like it wants to work. Okay, so can you guys see the budget? Is that showing up? Thumbs up? Okay, great. So I just wanted to go over this really quickly. There's not a lot of changes from previous years that need explanation, but I just wanted to touch on a couple of points. So as I mentioned earlier in my report, the NRCS agreement is projected to be about $802,000 this year through DACD and out to the districts. DDA agreement, similar story. So the conservation district dues I'm proposing that we reduce those a little bit. So in previous years, each district is paid $27,500, and I'm proposing that we reduce that to $26,000 for each district, because I've looked at the expenditures for mine and Missy services over the past few years, and I know we touched on this a little bit when we talked last year, but I think that we have the ability to reduce that contract a little bit, and I wanted to talk about that in an executive session in further detail. But basically, even with some of the big projects that we had last year with the tax ditch modernization work group and the cover crop workload analysis, we really didn't utilize all of the time in that contract. So if it's okay with everyone, we have the ability to reduce the contract with me and therefore reduce the district dues accordingly. So that would put us at $78,000 for our district dues. Other things, Envirothon donations, I don't know if Rick wants to make any note there, but I think that that's been a pretty consistent line item. So those would be our revenues. And then on the expense side, administrative expenses to Newcastle, $4,000 for bookkeeping with Gail, $250 for meeting expenses. I'm looking for anything that's kind of different. So the executive director compensation, so this is broken up into two items here for myself and for Missy services, and $5,000 for travel to mostly to NACD meetings, to the annual meeting, the executive directors conference, and potentially to an SWCS, the Soil and Water Conservation Society meeting this year. I'm also going to pursue a grant for that. But the travel and mileage for the NACD meetings are split with Maryland. So I split those 50-50 out between the two states. Let's see. NACD dues. I'm looking to see if there's anything else that I needed to comment on. But I think that is all I have for the DACD portion of the budget. And then I think we've got some Envirothon stuff down there. But does anybody have any questions on the DACD budget and the proposed reduction in dues and contract? David, is that you? Caller 2. That's Peanut, right?
It is. I just got, I think he's talking in the background.
Okay.
I just unmuted him in case he had a question.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty, so then I will scroll down to the Envirothon. So here's an overview of bank charges, dues and subscriptions, and other expenses for the Envirothon. And then looking at the Envirothon budget, so the awards, catering, prep, rentals, and t-shirts. And then some other website fees. I think everything has been pretty consistent, estimated from past year's expenses. So looking at total Envirothon expenses at 20,000, and I think that lines up with the sponsorships, the projected income from sponsorships. So looking at total expenses that just about match up with what we have for total income. So the income versus loss puts us almost $5,000 projected in the black. So with all of those budget pieces together, does anybody have any questions? Or Rick, do you have any additional comments there? Or Gail?
Yeah, pretty consistent. Of course, the sponsorship level is predicated on whether or not we have a fundraising event.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's where the $20,000 figure comes in.
Yep, good point.
I did want to make a comment on the DACD expenses, the bookkeeping subcontractor expenses. My actual charge out for 2021 was a little over 2,000. I budgeted 4,000 for this coming year only because of the single audit. I don't think it's going to be that much. I think it's a high estimate, but I just didn't want anybody to look at it and say, wow, Gail doubled her fee. I'm not trying to double my fee. I'm just trying to be proactive for the single audit.
Thank you for that. Yep. And I think, everybody, that makes perfect sense based on what we were just talking about with the additional workload that comes along with coordinating and being responsive to the auditors. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing because it's easier to see everybody then. All right. So let's see, without any questions, are we looking for a vote to approve the budget?
Do we have any motions to that effect?
I'll move to approve the budget. It's rolling.
This is Joel. I'll second it.
Roland and Joel. Thank you.
Without objection.
Any objections?
Any objections to the motion? Discussion?
None here.
If not, we'll consider it passed.
All right. So the next thing we have, filling the remainder of the president's term. That's you. So I guess I'll start, and if you have any comments there. So Richard stepping down from the Sussex Conservation District Board also means that he steps down as my president for DACD. And so we have 2 years left on his term and had some discussion on how to fill those 2 years. And so Gwen currently serves as the first vice president and is welcome to step into the president's role. And then I know that Joel and Roland have also talked. And to my understanding, Roland, correct me if I'm wrong, that you were also willing to step in and fill the remainder of Richard's term if everybody was amenable to that. And so, Richard, I'm gonna turn it over to you to see if you have any comments or any additional things to add there.
Well, I think Roland would be an excellent replacement for me. So, you know, and I think Joel would concur.
Yes, I'm back on. I'm sorry, I keep muting myself. I would agree. If Roland would agree to do it for a couple of years, I think we'd all be appreciative, and I think you do a great job.
And Gwen, I'll open it up for you to make any comments too, but I know in our interactions that you're happy to step into the president's role in 2 years. So as originally planned.
Yeah, Jen, thanks for bringing that up, but I appreciate it if Roland would be willing to take over at this time.
Any more comments or discussion?
Anything for you, Roland?
No, I'm willing to step in and fill out Richard's term.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we need a vote.
We're gonna vote. How are we gonna vote?
I guess we would need a motion for Roland to fill the remainder of your term.
Okay. Do I hear?
This is Bruce. I'll make that motion that Roland fill out the remaining term for the president of DACD.
Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Mr. Emerson seconds it.
Mr. Emerson, okay.
Thank you. By consensus, I would say Roland is elected.
Thank you, Roland.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Y'all might want to bring up the fact that if everybody is aware that I'm currently DACD treasurer, I have no problems with that. But generally, the treasurer comes from the district where the president is from. As long as everybody's aware of what's going on, I'm willing to remain treasurer. But if somebody ever has a problem with that, let me know. I'm not it's as much for Gail's convenience as anybody's. I trust a treasurer from your district, Roland. But I just want everybody to know that. Thanks.
I haven't heard any.
Well, and I know that's something that we need to address if everybody advances kind of along my current path. So, Gwen as probable next DACD president, and then you as the second vice president when you come up to be the president after that, then that's something that we definitely have to address because the president and the treasurer should not be the same person. But I figure we've got a little time before we have to work that out for sure. So, okay.
Thanks for your dedication, Bruce.
Yes. I agree. Okay, so the next thing we have is the representation on the Clean Water Trust Advisory Committee. And so, let's see, we heard Secretary Garvin give an update on the upcoming plans for the let's see, I see a note from Casey. I'll come back to that in just a second. So we heard Secretary Garvin give an update on the Clean Water Trust, the upcoming public hearings, and the path forward on that. So he alluded to a DACD representative on the Clean Water Trust Advisory Council or Advisory Committee. What?
Could he do that?
Well, in the law, it is written as the president of the districts, which we don't have a president of the districts per se. So I think we are looking to figure out who would represent the districts on that body. And so I wanted to bring this up because Kevin had received some communications from Jeff Bross on the Water Infrastructure Advisory Council to invite him or to ask him to serve as that representative, and that he had also contacted Deputy Secretary Lisa Boren-Ogden in that regard as well. So I think we wanted to put it out in front of the board here for discussion on that. And Kevin, I don't know if you wanted to add any additional comments on that before we get discussion rolling.
Not a whole lot to add, Jen, just that, Jeff Ross, who has served as WEAC chair here for probably close to a decade now, if not longer, just called and asked. I did mention that there might be others who would be interested in serving, without mentioning names, but I said I wanted to take it to the DACD meeting to make sure that there was consensus and consent if I do serve in that role. As the secretary mentioned, there are 3 non-voting members of WEAC, Farm Bureau representative, a public water supplier, and then, as Jen mentioned, the president of the conservation districts. So, I know Jeff. I have worked with the WEAC in previous roles. I know David has attended some of their meetings as well. And, I'd be willing to do it. But, my period at the districts, I'm 67, so I'm not going to be here forever, that's for sure. So, but whatever it is, the wishes of DACD Executive Committee is fine with me.
This is Bruce. I think Kevin would be a fine representative for the conservation districts if he's willing to do it.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, and Kevin, I think my only concern, you're absolutely the right person from expertise and the competency to take on the position for sure. I think my only concern was for DACD being the statewide voice, or the voice for statewide conservation issues. Just that I wanted to put that out there for consideration as part of that too. So it was, the question that I have is more positional than any questioning of your expertise or suitability for the position.
Does anybody else have interest in the position? Or do I have any nominations from the districts?
We could maybe, Alisa, put this on the agenda for the Kent Conservation, and I don't know about your other boards, to see before we, told Kevin to go with it, in case, let the board members know in case there was somebody that was interested. Because it's kind of getting up. This is a fairly new thing in our state anyway. And like Kevin alluded to, not knowing how long he was going to be working with us, it might be a good thing if we had a younger board member that was interested in doing it to kind of get up to speed and make a to represent the districts as a whole.
I think your point's well taken. And are we on the timeline?
Well, I'll just add though, and and again, I've certainly defer as I offered, is that as the secretary mentioned, the RC&D fund is the fund that is part of the trust's scope, and so whoever represents the districts will need to have familiarity with the RC&D funding line. Okay, and certainly NCCD does, as do the other two districts. So that's I think a subject matter competency will be part of the expectation as an advisor to WEAC.
Just to, Jen, I was going to add a little more to that if I could. Get back. Let me get back over here. I just pulled up the law while we were talking about it, and as Kevin alluded to, the non-voting members, of which the conservation districts are one, will be asked to provide annual recommendations to the WEAC relating to stormwater, drainage, flood protection, resource and conservation development projects, agriculture and conservation cost share, cover crops, conservation and reserve enhancement, and tax ditches. So as Kevin alluded to, it's, RC&D plus a lot of other things that the district's involved with, and it's just going to need to be somebody who's very well versed in a broad variety of subjects. So we'll just keep in mind that, people may volunteer, that it's got the potential to be a big position for the districts.
Mm-hmm. Any more discussion? Do we have a timeline that we have to have this done?
Mr. Jeff Ross didn't give me a timeline. He called me again this morning thinking that the DACD meeting was yesterday. And I told him that we would be discussing it this morning. My guess is, just based on the public hearing schedule that the secretary described, which includes one for next week.
The 25th.
The 25th, maybe he was hoping to have the non-voting members appointed prior to the first workshop. I don't know. What?
This is Bruce. Having mentioned, taking it back to the districts, I doubt very much that we will find anyone more qualified or willing to do it than Kevin. And I would propose that we allow Kevin to do this, but just with some discussion among the districts on how we want to do it. Otherwise, it could be, if they're wanting to get rolling with it, I think, like I said, Kevin would be an excellent representative for us. And if down the road we want to change that up, I don't think he'll have a problem with that either, would you, Kevin?
I would not.
So
who knows? I might welcome it.
Excellent point, Bruce.
So, I would recommend, I'll make a motion that we have Kevin appointed, represent us at the REAP meetings.
Can I hear a second on that?
I'll second that, Robert Emerson.
Any more discussion? It sounds like,
Just to say it's the right move.
okay.
Sounds good.
I think the consensus is that Kevin should take the position immediately.
I think I thank you.
That's great leadership, Richard.
Yeah, my condolences.
Really?
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Let's see. And so it looks like the last thing we are coming to, we've got the NACD annual meeting coming up. And I just wanted to make a note, our committee representation with NACD, Delaware is assigned to the Northeast region, of course, and the communications committee. And so I'll be in touch with everybody. You know, different states are active at different rates in the different NACD committees. But I'd like to, I attend, especially the communications and the Northeast region committees, but I'm not a voting member. And so the people who step into that role, I think they're once a month calls or less. And I just wanted to beef up our role a little bit in some of the National Association groups. So it's a good crowd. It's very interesting to hear a lot of the work that goes on in other states and at the national level in general. And so I just wanted to put a note out there that I'd be in touch with Gwen and Roland, you know, on the schedules for those calls. I'll be updating them now to make sure that the right people are on the mailing list and all of that stuff. But just to give you a heads up for when those meetings are coming up and, you know, to give you the opportunity for participation there. And then the NACD Northeast region meeting, if you all want to mark your calendars for that, that is going to be held August 28th to the 31st. It's in Cambridge, Maryland, at the Hyatt on the Chesapeake. It's a nice facility. And since I'm the executive director for Maryland, I have the pleasure of coordinating that Northeast region meeting this year, but I am definitely welcome or open to any kind of suggestions for our agenda, and we're putting together local tours and things like that. So, you know, there's plenty of opportunity to weigh in on that as we get closer to the meeting. But since Delaware and Maryland are neighbors, I think, you know, I'm glad for any feedback as we're moving forward with that. But I just wanted to mark that on the calendar. And then Casey, she had circled back to the question about the audits that we had earlier. So just to give you all a heads up on the chat there. So while the current agreement will not permit the inclusion of the fee in question, as this is outside of the scope and intent for the agreement deliverables now, a new agreement would have the option to include the specified audit fees as a listed service. So I see that Tim has seen that, and do we get the neighbor discount? Yeah, we're working on sponsorships to keep the registration fees low for everybody attending the conference. But the local discount, the neighbor discount, is just that you don't have to go very far. So you don't have to go to New Hampshire this year to attend the Northeast region meeting. So it's right around the corner. So there's that as well. So
Jen,
yep.
just real quick, while you're referencing Maryland and districts and all that other stuff, and
Okay.
maybe everybody on this call knows, maybe everybody on this call doesn't, that Robert Baldwin is now a district manager at the Kent district in Maryland, and he resigned from his, or I don't know what he called it, but resigned from the University of Maryland job that he had. So he will be at that meeting most likely.
Yes. Yep, I would say so. I would hope so.
He's
Yep.
part of the committee organizing it, so he better be there.
Oh yeah, I'd say so.
Robert's going to Florida too.
Great. I did not know that, so that's good to know. Awesome.
Hey, Jen.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you guys know, unfortunately, because of what's happening within the COVID cases and the numbers are still pretty high, they're not allowing for the state conservationists to attend the annual meeting. In the lieu, I know the chief will be there. I'm not certain if they're going to allow Juan Hernandez, who's our local state conservationist there in Florida, to attend or not. But right now, they put strict guidance that will really restrict how we're able to attend and when we're able to attend if it's large numbers of individuals that would be present. So unfortunately, we're not going to be there. We have asked to see if there could be a virtual option so we can join in at least for some of the larger sessions. Stay tuned. We'll share updates as that comes across. And I know Tim will probably talk about that a little bit more on our NCPP discussion on Thursday afternoon. So sorry, guys. I know this is year 2 that we've not been able to really be together, but hopefully when we start going into our summer meetings and beyond, we'll have a little bit more flexibility. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Casey. Yeah, I appreciate that update, and I hope they're able to set up a virtual option for you guys to attend at least some of the meetings there too. So we will miss, well, we've got a pretty light crowd going to NACD this year, so I'm going to miss everybody. We're not going to have our usual woohoo in the opening session. But Casey, you know, hopefully we have a chance by the summer to welcome you and everybody else to Cambridge for our Northeast Region meeting at least.
That sounds good. And Jen, we'll have to talk offline and see how we can get that Delaware woohoo known. even though we don't have our big group with us, we'll make sure that's still present.
Fantastic.
Jen, pack a megaphone and take it with you.
Yeah, exactly. So one person sounds like 30. So
there you go.
We'll go with that. All right. So
I just want to thank you all for giving me the pleasure of working with you. And you've got a great organization, sir. So
Thank you for all you've done, Richard.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Richard, this is Joel. Thanks for filling in for a term when I talked to you about it. Didn't know if anybody would be interested, but you stepped up to the plate and agreed to it. And it's been great working with you as DACD and as far as Sussex. So we're definitely going to miss you.
Well, I'll miss you all too.
Yeah, we will too, Richard. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Anything else?
I think I want to, if we can do an executive session, but I think unless anybody has anything, that's it for our regular annual meeting.
Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn the regular annual meeting.
I move that we adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're adjourned.
And if the executive committee can hang on for an executive session, it shouldn't take very long, but that would be great. Thanks, everyone.
Right. See
Jen,
ya.
do you want the
guys.
coordinators too, or just the
I think
executive committee?
I think you guys are good to hang on if that's okay.
Okay.
Jen, who was the first on the adjournment?
Mr. Emerson.
And Gwen was the second, right?
Yep, that's what I have too.
Thanks, Jen. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Casey. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Everyone taking over now.
Oh, I just, let's see. So what I wanted to share for the executive session, so my contract expired at the end of December. And so given, Missy and I are working together now, and we had made some initial agreement as far as how to handle our two services. But it calls for a bit of an adjustment in the new contract. And so I just wanted to share that, and try and figure out how to share my proposed contract. Let me try that again here. I'll get it. Okay. So I just made a couple of adjustments that I wanted to run by you guys before we finalize this. Layout, let me just, so that it's zoomed in nicely. There we go. Okay, so let me go up. So the first thing I changed are the dates to have this still run as a 2-year contract. So changing 2019 to our current date for 2022 and 2024 for December 31st. Other items are remaining the same. I can share this out with anybody too if we have any questions or if anybody wants to review this anew. But then the payment for services piece, so I wanted to reduce the total contract amount according to what we had discussed in the budget to $52,000 a year, but broken down. I wanted to increase my rate to $55 an hour for 850 hours a year for management functions, and then $25 an hour for $200 hours per year for Missy's work. That doesn't quite add up to $52,000 if you do the math, but I wanted to keep them in kind of round numbers. So 52,000 is the overall budget, and then it's loosely based on the numbers that we have below.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, 55 was wrong.
Yeah.
Oops.
So any thoughts or comments on that? Does anybody want to see any additional pieces on here or one, I don't know, or wait until I share it out over email or is it okay to go as is?
Jen, this is Robert Emerson again. I have no problem with that. I think you deserve that. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks or what, but that's my opinion.
Thank you.
And I would also make that an motion if.
Okay.
If there's no other objections from any other board members, I'd second that.
Thank you, Gwen. All right. Any discussion or concerns or questions?
I want to thank you for what you've been doing, and we've been working on that rate. Everything costs more every day, it seems. So I think that you've done what we have expected and needed at a reasonable rate, and not because when we hired you at the way we're doing this, we were kind of swagging what the cost would be, and I think you have done a pretty good job of getting the job done within those parameters. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, now we have a few years of data that we have to inform that as well. So that always helps too. So, okay. So we have a first from Mr. Emerson and a second from Gwen. So I should probably, why don't I step out while you guys do the voting bit? So I'll be right back.
Could we hear, Jolyn, you want to hear some further discussion or got suggestions? Or I'll let you take this thing. You're the one's going to have to live with it.
Who's running this meeting, you or me?
You.
No, I'm fine with it. You know, Jen's done a great job in the past, and so I guess if there's not any other discussion, need to take a vote on it.
Bruce got his hand up.
What was that?
Bruce?
Thumbs up or thumbs down? I'm up. Yes.
Okay.
I approve.
Kevin?
I approve.
Mr. Emerson approves.
I approve.
This is Joel. I approve.
Uh,
It's good.
Okay, I guess everything is approved.
All right.
Is there anything else to be brought up this time?
He never comes on to me. Bring Jen back in, give her the good news.
Okay. I guess that's.
Looks like you're hard.
Tell you what, it's a beautiful day outside. Alrighty.
Okay, Jen.
Sounds good. Thank you. Do we have, like, Richard's still president until the conclusion of this meeting? Is it okay with everyone if he signs the contract just to get that out of the way and then not have to fuss with trying to get up with Roland, or is that good? Okay.
That's fine.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All of you.
Thank you. Great job, Jen.
Yep, Jen, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll see you.
All right. See you guys.
Special
All right.
thanks to Kevin.
Yeah. All right.